Hi, welcome to another Roboflow training movie. This training movie is going to show you how a sync folder FTP workflow downloads the files from FTP. It's its standard functionality, and that we are going to add the functionality that it catalogs the file and renames it once it is downloaded. I'm starting from an example from a customer where some of this functionality was already added, and so we are going to improve it a little bit so that it functions perfectly. When I go into the workflow, I'm going to start by putting it to -2 so I can test run it later. And here in the workflow, I'm going to select my local storage. Yes, I know. So my local storage is on C/temp. So there we go. And I have a Roboflow downloads folder here in which I want to download my files. I'll be setting the FTP stuff later, but first let's have a look at the script that was added. Basic idea is I want to open a catalog because I want to catalog files in it. Good, but very important. First thing to check when you open a catalog, am I closing it again? Otherwise you will be keeping resources open and open and open until the server runs out of resources. So I'm going to add here Cumulus catalog functionality where I'm saying close catalog. And current catalog, that's the name that the object was given. Another thing is that I'm not a big fan of is having the catalog name hard-coded in your script, because when you come back later and you have to make some changes to the script, maybe just another catalog, maybe the catalog name changed, an asset handling set name changed, all those things change very easily and are very hard to track in a script. So what I usually do is I create a new variable here, then I say new and I say Cumulus catalog and Control A, Control C. You can make it very professional by adding a selector, select catalog dialog. This is somewhere in here. You can find all the different dialogues that you can add. So one of them is select catalog dialog. So if I say OK, I now have my drop down. That means that I now have it here, and now I can say what catalog I want it in. And let's say I want them in the asset delivery catalog. So that means that I have this catalog text or the name of the catalog in the global parameters. So now I can say that I want to pick this up, and reading information that is globally or locally stored, text information, can be accessed by simply adding the tag inline instruction. So this will pick up whatever is in that variable name and put it in this place. And now this is completely independent. Second thing is the file is coming in and we want to pick up the file because we want to keep the file path from where it was downloaded as something that we're going to store. So this is perfectly, I'm just storing the file path here. And then I can catalog the file. Now cataloging the file is the hot file from the current catalog, and now I don't like using hard-coded stuff in here, so I use placeholders. And so here the Cumulus asset handling set, and I'll show you in a minute where this comes from, hash, and it shows you all the text information fields that it already knows. So let me save this for a second and let me show you where this comes from. Globally, in Cumulus, you have the ability, in Roboflow, to define a permission template and an asset handling set. And this is the name under which this is stored. So if you specify it here, then it can be the same all over your Roboflow, and you just point to that. You pick it up in your script without having to reset it every time. If you want it differently, then just create a variable with exact the same name. Here in the local parameters, it will be overwriting the global parameters, and that way your workflow parameters will precede on that and will be used inside this script. So that's why we use these stored Cumulus asset handling set name and stored Cumulus permission template. Now we have a record. The idea is that we want to rename this file. You will see we have a rename instruction here where we give it a prefix and then a counter.jpg. Now, first of all, we could argue that this is dangerous, that we are just assuming it's JPEG, but if we're certain that it's JPEG, we can leave it at that. Otherwise, you can pick up the file name of the original file and you can pick up the file extension and just glue it to this file. So that would be a solution, but this is not a problem. What is a problem, or what does need our attention, is the counter, because the way it is used now, you have an instruction that can store an incremented value of a counter, but you need the start value. And of course, every time Roboflow restarts, because Roboflow, as you know, needs a daily restart, actually this counter will start from 0 or 1 or from nothing when it doesn't exist yet, because everything that you create in here as objects, text objects, only exist in this local environment. So it would not be very helpful. What you can do is use another functionality, which is storing that parameter, that counter, in a file. So we're going to file folder and we can say increment counter file. So the increment counter file, we can say, okay, where is it? Well, if this is local to this file, I usually just use param folder, which is the local folder of the workflow itself. And then you can say slash counter.txt, like that. And then we can say here number of digits, 6, for instance. And then you can decide on what name this result should be. So I see that you're using counter start. So let's call this counter start. So I'm saying counter start increased by 1 from parent folder counter.txt. Control C, Control V. So now this counter start will have a value starting with 00001. That's what this does. That's a little bit what you were doing with it, but this is okay, 5. So if it's only 5 digits, then we take 5 digits. And the thing is, you would run into an error here because you're going from, in this instruction, you're going from counter start, which doesn't exist yet, and you try it to increment it. So that would not work very well. It would actually call every file 001. It would always be 001 because it's created in here. By storing it in a file, we can keep it as long as we like. We can even set and go in and set a start value. Maybe you've been doing this for a couple of years and you want to say, okay, maybe you want a piece of the year in there, so you could do that as well. There's many options. So let's throw these two away. We don't want this. Okay, you're storing this as a global variable, and that's a good idea, but the only problem is that the global variable only exists the second time, and if you stop the workflow at the end of the day, which is a necessity, a daily restart of the service is a necessity, then the next day it would start from 1 again. Maybe you want that, but I doubt it. So then increment text value, those two I'm going to cut them out. So the next thing I see that you're doing is setting the record name. So if you've cataloged it, well, normally you would probably do it the other way around. You would first, and here is counter result used and not counter start. So let's fix that again. So like that. So counter result, no problem. So I would usually do the rename, and then afterwards, if you want to be sure that the file was set properly, then so now I can do new record, rename, and that's the new file name. That's good, no problem, this will work. And then I could set, if you want to be 100% sure, but I don't think it's necessary unless updating is not enabled in the update. You can set the record name to this. The next value is that you can set the keywords field to the hot path, which is perfect. And then you are storing a category from path. Here, I'm not a big fan of what you have this hard-coded path in here, right? And since you want it created anyway, you don't need to add a category. You can set a record field value to $categories / that same path, and it will set it again. So what we can do is this is a good way of doing it. There's an even better way, but let's stick to this one. So I'm picking up this, and here I can add in my parameters new, and I call it root category. And this way my root category contains whatever you want it to contain. You even can make this part dynamic. You could call this year, for instance. That way automatically it will evaluate that to every day when it starts to year. Now I'm going to pick up that that root category here, Control C, cancel, OK. And it's always a good thing to do an extra save from time to time. So where are we going? Store category from path. Here we are. Hash. And then it will not show up the name of that variable that you just created. It only shows up the ones that are known in the template, and it shows the one that you create in the script, not the ones that you add afterwards. So I'm now using that inline scripting tag called tag to pick up a stored text variable, and now it will be again taken out of my script, not being bound to my script. So finally we close the catalog. Let's have a look if we made any mistakes. Start. We can see here in the downloads folder if anything is coming in. It says running, so it could be downloading files. There you are. It will first recreate the categories, the subfolders, sorry, as folders here, subfolders of your root folder on FTP. So if we look here, test Peter, and there are the files. If we now have a look in Cumulus, we can see that the files have arrived here, have been cataloged and renamed. If we look at show location, it actually pulled it into the vault. I configured the vault for this catalog, so that is the reason why the files here are not deleted. If you don't want to keep the originals, all you have to do is either add to your script a delete of the delivered file once it is cataloged, or you can set in your asset handling set that once it moves it into the vault, that it also deletes when cataloging, that it deletes the original. If that is the case, then the original file would have disappeared from this folder. information wise, let's have a look. It has stored in the keywords field the path with the subfolders of the original file, so we still have 100% traceability to the original, and we assigned it to that particular category. So if we double click, we can see that all 4 records were assigned to this category that we created. So this is a nice example of how you can download and catalog, and you got this way some insight on how to create counters and how to rename files. Thank you for joining, and see you on another training movie.